with Accenture Digital. I'm a managing director and I have two hats. My predominant focus areas are capability lead for data and analytics across Accenture Digital's global delivery network. Recently, I've taken up a secondary role as a blockchain digital capability lead. So, my friends Sankarshan and my friends from IBM have touched on rather technical points. I'm going to keep this fairly lightweight, and just talk about some of my journey and and how I've sort of been learning blockchain. So, in all disclaimer, I'm a blockchain 101 student. And as part of this, Accenture is sponsoring iPads for the winners of this hackathon. If you ask a difficult question, you're automatically eliminated from the iPad thing, so keep that in mind. Alright. So the topic I'm going to talk about is tectonic shifts in technology. Right? That's an area. Last night I got a call and said, hey Vinay, you need to speak tomorrow. Like, okay, I'm going to be addressing a bunch of nerds. What do I talk about? Alright, I thought, let me talk about what I feel, really passionate about, and that's technology. That's where we're going to talk about. So in the journey of technology, first I'm going to take you through a little bit of time, and then how has technology fundamentally shifted over the years, right? So I'll take an example of music to begin my story. The music industry. Scientists have been experimenting for a long time in terms of how can they record sound, but it is only in the year 1877 that our dear friend Thomas Alva Edison, whom we know very well for inventing the light bulb, decided he wants to do something in a way that can actually play back sound. So he invented a device called the phonograph. Okay, so phonograph in its simplicity, it's a tin foil that's wrapped around a cylindrical sort of a device. It spins, it reverberates, creates sound. 10 years later, in the year 1887, a new device was invented. It's called the gramophone. So the whole concept of a gramophone is it sort of revolved around the concept of a circular sort of a disc that can spin. All right, how does it work? So it's sort of a vinyl disc that is etched with grooves in it, and then there's a sort of a needle that sits in the grooves, and as the discs spin at a fairly constant rate, the needle vibrates. As the needle vibrates, there's a diaphragm attached to the needle, which vibrates as well. The diaphragm is connected to a horn, whose job is to amplify the sound that's generated from the vibrations. That is the gramophone. My first exposure to gramophone as a child was when my dad got a sort of a gramophone disc to my home. So the movie song called Kurbani. I don't know if you guys remember, you're probably too young or there. There was one particular song in that movie, Aap jaisa koi mere zindagi mein aaye to baat ban jaye. There's something, even as a very small kid, under even 10 years old, there was something about that song that really got onto me, and that's how much I loved gramophones. Okay, so that was it. Then came in the year 1962, Philips, a company, did something miraculous. They invented a product called the compact audio tape. Right? You've seen, probably some of you have seen it, some of you escape that or skip through that journey altogether. So a device based on magnetic storage concept where you could record sounds, you could play back sounds using a large tape. Okay, so that was the whole concept of the it went well. I still remember, how I used to have a collection of those compact discs and the compact audio tapes, and we used to record multiple songs, play it back, all that fun. 1982 came another product called as a compact disc, a CD, as we all know about it, right? CD is supposed to be able to store, the whole concept is, you can store more. It's slicker device. It was introduced, and slowly and steadily the CD took over the market share from the audio tape and started gaining prominence. A big revolution in the audio industry happened in the year 2001. A gentleman by the name Steve Jobs, in 2001, he addressed a large gathering of audience and spoke about something. He said, this YouTube video is on YouTube. For those of you who have seen it, fantastic. For those of you who have not, I strongly recommend that you go and play it back. He mentioned about his passion for the industry, music industry, how he felt obligated to give something back to the industry. And then the punchline of his speech was that he was going to reveal a product which was in his pocket and that had 1,000 songs in it. 1,000 songs in your pocket was the punchline that Steve Jobs matched with, right? So then we all know, right, how that iPod came out, and then subsequently now the iPods, like, you know, what's going to happen now with iPhones, and the phones themselves have started increasing the storage. Do you really need the iPod? Not, you don't know. One thing to note in this whole concept is there was an overlap. While the CDs were gaining prominence, the tapes were still in existence. While the iPhones and the other music players of the present age are there, the iPods are still in existence. Overlap. I'm going to come back to this in a second. Alright, now I'm done with the music. Let me switch gears and talk about a different field. Let me talk about networking. Between 1970s and 80s saw the emergence of a major emergence of a concept called internet. 1972 was the year specifically when email was launched. It was, what is the internet? It's a mother of networks, and it's a network of networks where you could pass information and you could communicate with from one computer to another, right? It's the simplest form of definition of what an internet was. Well, email changed the way the world operated. I remember I was asking some of my colleagues, and when I joined my first part of my career with Intel, it was only not too long ago when my colleagues were telling me, how are you exchanging information? I asked a question to one of my colleagues who was there for a while. She told me, well, every day they would print out large memos, and those memos would get distributed manually, from person to person. Wow, right? Fortunately, I was not a part of that story when those were being done. As I started my career, the email was very much there. But that marked a marvelous evolution in terms of how information was exchanged. Something happened in the 90s, 90 to sort of 99. The next paradigm that has come to the surface was www, World Wide Web. One simple concept of HTTP, Hypertext Transfer Protocol, which based on a concept of a very thin client called the browser, which would allow us to do anything and exchange information on the internet. That was the next big shift in the networking, curve of maturity, right? So all of us know how that has built up. Well, that's it. Something happened. Next after the internet, something happened in the year sort of 1999. A new phrase came up in the networking space. It was called the cloud. Okay. Initially, the way it was cloud, I understood cloud as okay. It's a place. If my computers, I can't store too much on my computer, then okay, instead of storing on an external hard drive, maybe I can store it on the cloud. That's how I started learning about the cloud. But where we are right now in the cloud has the potential, and it's already doing it, to disrupt the very concept of what a data center is. Disrupt is the word there, right? People talk about security and all that, but I'm sure there are many people out there who bet an entire paycheck in proving that the cloud is probably more secure than any company's internal data secure. Removing all sort of assumptions and imaginations on what security could be. With the speed of the internet growing, the amount of data, the speed which you can transfer data, the security, the resilience, the reproducibility, the data centers, the disaster recovery features, all this that the cloud offers, it's very clear that all of them are shifting into a cloud strategy. Pretty much, if you look at any technology majors, big companies, small companies, medium companies, the cloud is the next paradigm. What happened next? Mobile. 2006 was when the mobile started gaining prominence. Okay, and all of us had, I started my very first cell phone was a Nokia. It had a long, very antenna. It was this big, and it was a black and white screen. I thought I conquered the world when I bought my first device. But we know how the mobile technology has gone in there. One addition to mobile, along with the mobile, to capitalize truly on the power of mobile, along with it, there's the next sort of chapter in the networking history was what we call as IoT, Internet of Things. Right? So, what is IoT? When I say IoT, I look at my hand. I look at my smartwatch that I have on my hand. It's like, wow. It's like, it will tell me what, it tells Vinay you met your goal for the day, number of steps you walk, so all sorts of things, right? The concept of having sensors and that use mobile technology to transmit data, which when analyzed can give you meaningful insights and recommendations into the future, is a very exciting note, you guys think? right? In terms of where is this, not just health industry. If you look at the sort of the resources industry, some of the clients we help with, we've installed sensors on oil rigs, in pumps, in water treatment plants, everywhere, so that we are able to analyze historical data and we are able to come up with insights saying, here is the level of predictive maintenance you need to do on your pumps and stuff like that. That will save you so much. Another example of how we are using IoT is in the insurance industry. Telematics, if you've heard of the phrase. Install sensors in your car that will capture data points around how are you as a driver, are you a responsible driver or not? And then that information send it to the insurance companies who can then decide whether they should give you probably an extra discount on the premium or whether they should actually make you pay more. Right? Fundamentally different concept, so that one size fits all. Right? So that's there. So these are the four major inventions. The fifth, and probably notable, and this is what you guys are all going to talk about, sort of an innovation in the networking space is blockchain. One of the white papers is calling blockchain as the fifth horizon of network innovation. It's a powerful statement, right? After all these four of these things that have come up. I've been a couple of months into the blockchain, as I've been said, sort of trying to read what is this blockchain all about. And I like to deal with simplicity. So the way I've understood it myself as I learning blockchain is, it is a way of conducting trade between parties without the need for a middleman. This is the simplest definition of blockchain that mind, sort of a mortal mind would very easily comprehend and fathom. So you're talking about, so how does it work? So when you say remove an intermediary, then how does it work? So then I understood that it works on the concept of a consensus. I tried to figure out what is consensus, and I started learning about that a little bit myself. I like to make analogies and things like that. So I made myself an analogy to something I like a lot. I like to play cards, and I particularly love a game called poker. Texas Hold'em poker, to be more specific. How many of you know poker? Just raise your hands, please. I've heard of it. So quite a few, but there's a few of you who are not. Very simply, I lay it down. It is a game between a group of players who are dealt with. There's a single deck of cards that's actually dealt, 2 cards per person. Eventually, 5 cards come up on the table that are open to everyone. Your 2 cards are secret to you. First 3 cards come out, then the 4th and the 5th. That's how it works. So the whole concept is you are supposed to prove, when you go for a showdown, that you have better cards than the person who's contesting or challenging you. Okay? Now, I read about poker on the internet, and then I started playing at a casino in Las Vegas. So that's where I started playing. Then I noticed there are 2 middlemen in the process. One is a dealer who's not playing the game. He's dealing the cards. His job is to ensure that the one who has the best 5 cards, actually, your 2 plus 3 from the stack of 5, wins the game. His job is to ensure that. Okay. And then there's a second middleman. There's a camera sitting on top. Alright? In case the dealer decides that he wants to take a short nap, and there's a contention, then there's a camera to actually prove separate facts from fiction. Right? So it was that concept. But then when I brought this poker back home and we started playing among a group of friends, a very large group of friends, there was no dealer because nobody wanted to be dealing, everybody wanted to be playing. So as we started playing the game among all of us, then what we realized is suddenly, I say that I have the best cards. One of the guys says he has the best cards. Who decides who has the best cards? Well, it's the rest of the people who are sitting on the table who will decide together who has the best cards. That's the concept of a consensus, right? So that is how I started learning about, I started relating myself to blockchain and this sort of technology. November 2008, the revolution in blockchain started. The real Satoshi Nakamoto, whoever he is, wherever he is, hopefully he's still around. He launched, as I read about it, he launched a protocol, a white paper on sort of the Bitcoin technology, and following it up with the release in 2009 of the first Bitcoin wallet software, right? There are different schools of thought about what's the future of Bitcoin, what's going to happen. One thing is, as of this morning, as I checked the internet, the Bitcoin is each Bitcoin is valued roughly at around 38,000 rupees. and that's not small. And there are probably more than 16 million bitcoins in circulation. So it remains to be seen what is going to happen. It does command a reasonably high share of the market. Fintech spendings overall in the blockchain market, are expected, as people have predicted, to touch over $10 billion by the end of this year. That is sort of the territory, that's the space that's sort of operating on the space. It's been nice to talk about some of the things that will sort of shape the future in terms of my perspective on what I think will sort of shape how the blockchain industry is going to picture. The first thing is going to be open source. This is a brand new system. The old systems of intermediaries has been tried, tested for decades and is working. Okay? There's a cost involved, but it's working, right? Now we're talking about a system which is fundamentally saying I'll remove the costs related to a middleman. And this is the potential, right? But how will it work? So people want to be able to verify. So I personally feel that open source is the way that this entire industry is going to progress. The second area is around consortiums. Okay? So now, again, thinking of a group of people, if I can trust a group of people who are my friends, saying that they will do the right thing when I'm playing my cards game, that they are nothing but a consortium. Right? A consortium has multiple benefits in terms of A, dictating how this landscape is going to go, B, setting standards, and 3, acting as a trusted group of that can actually sort of mine these things, the transactions that are happening through the blockchain network and whatnot. The third area of focus is going to be in security. So my friends have spoken. Early in 2016 itself, we've all heard that Bitfinex, Bitcoin, sort of the exchange has been hacked and $60 million worth of Bitcoins have been stolen. Very recently, as of June, we've heard that how the Ether has been, so the DAO has been hacked, and $3.6 million worth of Ether has been stolen. Right? This is not small. How our dear friend who did the DAO hack essentially exploited a flaw in the smart contract logic and used that to their advantage. It poses a fundamental question. As the blockchains expand, okay, and like our friend mentioned, right, what's happened is they reverted to an older checkpoint of the blockchain, and then things got normal. But what if the blockchain becomes so big that it's going to be hard to roll back or go back to checkpoint? How do you ensure that smart contracts are indeed really they're not deliberately intended or coded with an intent of causing more harm? How do you ensure all this happens, right? So security will be an area where there will be insane focus in the coming years as per what I think. The regulation and compliance. These are the next two areas where I think there will be a lot of focus in this space, right? You're going to build all these things, but how do you ensure that government agencies like the Reserve Bank of India or Federal Reserve and all these who control currencies and all that, how do you ensure that how are they supposed to set regulations to ensure how the businesses are conducted, how trades are exchanged, all sort of things. There'll be an insane focus on that. In terms of what is this industry? The next topic I want to touch upon is what sort of roles will this industry demand? Young blood, young talent, who will be, if some of you are not already working, you'll pretty soon hit the corporate market. My view of how we think the roles in this industry, two sorts of people in my opinion. One is for geeks, such as yourself. The second is for mere mortals, such as myself. What does that mean? When I say geeks, I'm talking about platform people, sort of developers. There are people who will be entrusted with the role of expanding upon the existing protocols, such as whether it's the Hyperledger or the Ripple or the Bitcoin or the Ethereums of the world, in terms of expanding that and making sure it's more robust, it's more secure, that the whole blockchain, best and breed of algorithms are actually happening in that sort of space. That's the first one. The second is, that's not bad news for others, for mere mortals like myself, like I said. There will be other roles in it as well. There are people, so there will be any sort of roles where we trust that the geeks or the nerds are going to create those platforms, which we can think of as a black box. In other words, you assume it works. Don't question whether it's working or not. Now that you know that it works, how do you make it work for your situation? What sort of applications can you build for your clients that can actually use the blockchain protocols and the blockchain network, assuming it like a black box. Think of it like a database. Like, if you take an Oracle database, you're not going to question whether Oracle is doing the right thing. You assume it works, right? So, and then you'll be tasked with the challenge of developing code, developing APIs, developing, and then and those are code modules or applications as they call it, that will utilize the blockchain infrastructure and to meet your needs. Okay? So that's the second role. The third role, with everything going digital, when digital is the wave of the sort of the century that's sort of happening right now, there's going to be an insane amount of demand for people who can code smart, web applications or mobile apps that will actually rely on the blockchain technology, right? So there's roles for those sort of people. There's going to be roles for a new breed of testers. Why do I say new breed? In the traditional world of software development, when we said testers, we had automation testers, we had white box testing, and we had black box testing. And typically many developers, who do functional testing, you go to a website, here are the requirements, you ensure you have to go through the screens, do the front end testing, or if it's a database, you write SQL queries and ensure it's done. The way the blockchain industry will go, just like how the music industry also, I talked about overlap phrase, the way this is going to go is traditional systems are very much going to be running in parallel to the newer systems that are going to be implemented on blockchain technologies. Experts have predicted, as you must have read, that it's going to be probably in the year 2025 before wide mainstream adoption of the blockchain technology. And we're talking about 9 years from now for that to be the case. So and systems are being built as we speak, right? So there is always going to be that overlap, and slowly and steadily people are going to take a proof of concept approach in kind of putting smaller things on here, verifying it. So the new breed of testers have a job which is they have to verify that smart contracts are doing what they're supposed to do. This is not a traditional, typical legacy of how you test, right? So an entire industry around how that the testing frameworks and methodologies will evolve is around the corner. So that's sort of about around testing. What I've done sort of is try to take you through a technological sort of view, right? The last topic I want to talk about is the resurgence of the old. What is that? As a kid, I watched, when I was a young kid, I watched my first 3D movie. It was a movie called Chota Chetan. For those of you who've heard of the movie. I was very young when that movie came. Just so exciting, the concept of wearing glasses and seeing something in 3D. After that movie, maybe I saw one or two other 3D movies that have come, but suddenly there was a period of about 20 plus years when there was no 3D movie at all. I don't know what happened, why. And now today, as we know, almost every single English movie or even some of the Indian movies that are coming out are 3D. What happened? What was good then? And what is good? And why did it stop and why did it come? Right? So technological advances, I guess, have made, first of all, the glasses I used to wear as a kid was those paper cardboard glasses which are crappy, but now we have plastic glasses in there. Also, advances in 3D technology are making the rendering effects of the movie even much better. Right? So this is what I call as the resurgence of technology. Quantum computing. As a kid, I studied in my physics and all that, there was quantum computing and all that. But now the processing power and technology, and then there was again a lull period. But now if you talk to experts, talk about the next future, and in fact, that's what one of the areas that Accenture is betting big, is in quantum computing that it will take over. With whole, and it'll actually, the impact of quantum computing on the blockchain industry is a topic that's being researched upon as I speak, right? So what has happened? Technological innovations, processing power, speed, right? We've heard of Moore's law, and as Gordon Moore, the founder of Intel, said every 2 years the number of transistors that you can put on a square inch on an integrated circuit board is going to double. We've seen how that is happening. We're talking about all this, how the process, the proof of work, and how that is going to have an impact on all the computing power. It's costly, and that's why we're looking for alternate ways like proof of stake and all that. But what if quantum computing can change that? Right? So these are all questions we don't have answers to. This technology is certainly there, and it's progressing in the right direction. Old is gold, but be prepared to be swept by the wave of the new. Is essentially what I want to leave you with. Yeah, there are two choices. One is we can wait for the future to happen, or second, or we can be a part of the future and actually help shape it. You're nerds, you're here to participate in a hackathon, and I'm fairly confident that several of you here in this room will actually help shape the future of technology, blockchain included. So that is sort of my speech. Hopefully.